Will the LA Kings ever do what the Lakers and Dodgers have done recently? We'll tell you what that is and talk more about it on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Well, the LA Kings are back home from that tough 5-game road trip and stretch of games that saw them spend 20 of 24 days away from home. Hopefully, with a little boost from that win in the final game of their road trip over the Hurricanes, LA can hit the reset button and get back on track at home, where they've been so good all season long. Kings of the best home ice winning percentage in the NHL, 15-3-1 the record. And again, the Kings looking to use that home ice advantage to get a couple of home wins before the upcoming Four Nations face-off break of a couple of weeks. Kings are off for 3 days, and then they'll host the Montreal Canadiens coming up on Wednesday. So no games to talk about for a couple of days. However, if you missed it, there was some huge sports news in Los Angeles as the Lakers made a gigantic trade and acquired Dallas Mavericks star Luka Doncic. Don't worry, I'm not really a basketball fan, and I'm not going to get into that. If you want to know more about that, you can check out Locked On Lakers. But the trade does impact a King star and raise a question. As for the King star, that would be Anže Kopitar, who now is no longer the most famous Slovenian athlete in Los Angeles. That, unfortunately, for Kopi will go to his countryman, Luka Doncic, who is, as Kopi has admitted, a bigger deal in his native Slovenia than he is. But more importantly, it does raise the question, will the LA Kings ever make a big-time trade or make a major signing of a superstar to boost the level of the franchise anytime soon? If you're a Dodgers fan, you know they sign a lot of big names, none bigger, though, than designated hitter and pitcher Shohei Ohtani, not only a phenomenal baseball player, but also an international superstar. The Lakers have now done the same in getting Luka Doncic. They have gotten an international superstar and have possibly changed their fortunes as far as how they can compete for an NBA title this year and beyond. So as a Kings fan, it is hard not to think about the Kings doing something like that when you see two other teams in this city do what they've done. Is it something the Kings are even considering? And if not, why not? Well, of course, once upon a time, if you're a fan of a certain age, you certainly know all about this, and I do. The Kings did exactly that. They got an Ohtani, they got a Luka Doncic, and more when they traded for Wayne Gretzky, the great one, back many years ago. That was one of the biggest trades in sports history, and I believe the biggest trade in NHL history. So obviously, we know it's possible. It can happen. The Kings have done it in the not too distant past. So could lightning strike twice? Well, it could, but is there a realistic chance that it would happen again? Let's say, for example, the Kings decide to go after another Oilers legend, Connor McDavid. Now, I know for some of you that might put a bitter taste in your mouth, considering what the Oilers have done to the Kings over the last 3 postseasons. But back in the day, believe me, while it wasn't specifically always eliminating the Kings in consecutive years, the Kings were the stepchild at the hands of the powerful Oilers back in the day when Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier and the crew were kind of ruling the NHL. So if you look at the Oilers, they're certainly not going to trade Connor McDavid, but Connor McDavid is actually an unrestricted free agent as it stands right now after next season. So let's just play around with this. If he wanted to test free agency, look, he's going to be the highest paid player in the NHL. When he gets signed, whether it's by the Oilers or someone else, he seems like he's happy enough in Edmonton for now. But things can change. He's currently making $12.5 million. Obviously, whoever signs him, whether it's the Oilers or someone else, are going to pay more than that. Currently, Toronto's Austin Matthews is the highest paid player in the NHL, making $13.5 million per season. And with the salary cap going up, which we'll touch on more in a second, Connor McDavid will get paid more than that. So that's going to be the price, probably $14 to $15 million for Connor McDavid. So speaking of the salary cap, this all goes hand in hand with players and how you can sign players and what teams make and have to spend. So it was announced recently that the NHL and the NHL Players Association agreed to significant increases to the league's salary cap over the next 3 seasons, marking a major shift that we've seen over the last few years. Obviously, COVID played a factor in that, with the salary cap not really going up much, but things are changing. And right now, this season, the NHL salary cap is at $88 million. Coming up in the 2025-26 season, it's expected to go up to $95.9 million. 2026-27 season, it'll go over $100 million at $104 million. And in the 2027-28 season, the NHL projected salary cap is $13.5 million. Now, the question is, which teams are going to decide that they are going to try and spend to the cap and which ones are not? Because there are going to be teams that are going to say, we can't spend that kind of money. Frankly, probably our neighbors to the south, the Anaheim Ducks, are one of those teams. And then you've got Canadian markets. The Canadian dollar, right, isn't as strong as the US dollar. So some of those Canadian teams, other than Toronto and probably Montreal, but Ottawa, Winnipeg, and maybe even Edmonton decides we can't spend that kind of money. And it gives advantages to some bigger market US teams, maybe like Los Angeles. Now, there's no question that the Kings are a big media market, although it doesn't mean that as far as money earned and franchise values, the Kings are not a top 5 valued franchise in the NHL. So yes, big market. Yes, big media market. We've seen what the Lakers and Dodgers can do, but it is apples and oranges compared to the LA Kings for various reasons. And we'll get into that in a second, but you look at the current ownership of the LA Kings, and they have typically spent to the cap. They are doing so this season. Will that continue? That's a question that we don't know. AEG, the Anschutz Entertainment Group that currently owns the Kings, again, they have shown that they will spend to the cap. I understand there's a certain kind of skepticism with how all in exactly they are when it comes to the LA Kings. Now, they were the owners of the team when the Kings won their 2 Stanley Cup runs or Stanley Cup titles. So they obviously have invested enough where the Kings can win championships. But is it at the level of the Dodgers or the Lakers? It's not. And those franchises, obviously, especially the Dodgers, can spend as much money as they want. It certainly helps because of the revenues that those leagues get from their TV deals, which is where most of these leagues make their money. The NBA and Major League Baseball has better TV deals than the NHL. So that makes it a bit easier for those teams to do what they need to do. As a matter of fact, look at the Lakers and the Dodgers. They have their own TV networks here in Los Angeles that will broadcast the majority of their games. So the Kings don't exactly have a level playing field when it comes to the Dodgers and the Lakers. Like I said, it's a bit apples to oranges, but within the realm of the NHL, with the salary cap going up and up and up, can the Kings do some things? Can they maybe take advantage of some teams not being able to spend that kind of money? And could they get a guy like a Connor McDavid? It's unlikely, but it does raise some interesting questions. Is the current ownership group interested in doing something like that? like I said, they've put together championship teams, so it's not like they don't spend, but we haven't really seen an urgency to go out and get a mega superstar to be able to compete with teams like the Dodgers and Lakers in our own city. Because as much as we all like to think we're all one big kind of LA family, clearly the Kings are in competition for dollars, for the attention of fans. And there's a great loyal core group of hockey fans, and you're likely one of them if you're listening and watching to this show. But it is a legitimate question. And I do wonder, are the Kings looking to do something like that? I don't know the answer to that. Now, if you look at comparing a Luka Doncic trade to what the Kings did back in the day with Wayne Gretzky, because people are talking about this Doncic trade being one of the biggest trades in NBA history. I can tell you, as someone who lived through it, it doesn't compare or come close to the Kings getting Wayne Gretzky back in the day. We're talking about, if you want to compare it to something currently, it would be like the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL trading Patrick Mahomes next season after they win the Super Bowl, which you think about that seems insane. But when the Kings got Wayne Gretzky, the Oilers had just won the Stanley Cup. Gretzky had been a multiple champion and MVP, and yet the Oilers traded him. That's how huge the trade was. It would be like Patrick Mahomes being traded, which seems insane. And you could also make the argument, well, quarterback position in the NFL is a bigger deal than any position on any NHL team. And that's true. Quarterbacks have a huge say in whether an NFL team is successful or not. But again, it's just, that's how big the Gretzky trade was to LA. So it happened once. Could it happen again? Certainly a Bruce McNall doesn't own the LA Kings anymore. If you know anything about that story, a Maverick owner who was willing to do anything to win and spend. And of course, didn't really work out for him because he ended up going to jail for fraud. But the Kings did it once. Can they join teams like the Lakers and Dodgers and maybe do it again at some point in the recent history? We'll see. The salary cap is certainly an interesting component in all of this. But again, it's hard not to see what the Dodgers and Lakers have done recently and wonder, could the Kings do something like that in the near future? We go from talking about a huge trade for the Kings in their past to maybe a smaller trade in their near future. That's next. You're on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, those of us that live in Southern California, lucky that we have so many live events we could check out: sports, concerts, theater events, comedy shows. And when you want to go to any of those events, you need to do what I do to get my tickets, and that is use Gametime. Gametime has a new feature. It's called Gametime Picks, and it makes getting tickets even easier. It filters out all the fluff, so you only get incredible deals, and you don't have to waste time looking through thousands of tickets. They have an all-in pricing feature. It shows you the total right up front, so you get no surprise fees at checkout. And it takes the guesswork out of buying tickets as well. You can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $20 off your first purchase. And if you will guaranteed to get the lowest price, guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, the NHL trade deadline is coming up March 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So as we are recording this, 33 days away from the NHL trade deadline. Now, in between then and now, we're going to look at some potential targets for the LA Kings. We have talked about some of the names before. There'll be some other names we haven't mentioned. And the Kings are not expected to make a big blockbuster deal. And, given the current makeup of the team in regards to the salary cap and the past reputation of general manager Rob Blake, the idea that the Kings will be shopping big seems unlikely. They will be shopping small to medium, I would say. Now, could Blake, in the final year of his contract, and sensing the Kings need a solid, at least second-tier scorer, make a legitimate move? Seems unlikely. But some of the names that we have talked about, again, will look a little bit more in depth and give you the details. So what are the Kings looking for at the deadline? Certainly, it doesn't seem like it would be defense, unless the Mikey Anderson injury is way more serious than we've been led to believe. Certainly doesn't look like the Kings are looking to add to goaltending. Darcy Kemper is clearly the number one. I'd say there's a slim chance the Kings could be looking to upgrade that backup spot with David Riddick. No, the Kings are looking for scoring help, preferably a right-handed shot, and someone who could help out on their power play. So the first player we're going to look at that possibly could do that is Brock Besser. He is currently a right winger for the Vancouver Canucks. He's a Minnesota native, going to turn 28 here soon on February the 25th. As of the recording of this show, he's played in 523 career NHL games, all with the Canucks. He has scored 195 goals. He has 222 assists for 417 points. He's 6'1", 200 pounds, right shot, right winger, was the 23rd overall pick by the Canucks in the 2015 draft. Parts of 9 seasons in Vancouver. He has a career high of 40 goals. He did that in 81 games last season. Before that, though, his career high was in his rookie year, where he had 29 goals in 62 games. That was in 2017-18. His career high in power play goals was also last season when he had 16. As for this year, he's played 44 games, 16 goals. That's second on the team, 33 points, tied for fourth on the team. He has 5 power play goals, which is tied for second on the team currently. Now, Brock Besser is certainly not a star player, but he is an above average player that could help a team now and in the future, specifically offensively. He has been playing on the top line this season with the Canucks on the right wing. If you were going to compare him to somebody as far as who we're familiar with being Kings fans, I think he actually kind of compares to the recently departed Arthur Kaliev, but with a more proven NHL track record. Besser, like Kaliev, known for his excellent shot. Like Kaliev, needs to play with some players that can kind of set him up. He's not great at creating offense. He's not a Kevin Fiala or an Adrian Kempe because he doesn't have that kind of speed or skating ability. Besser's offense is something the Kings could use, but keep in mind he's also a career minus 22. So would his defensive issues fit in with the LA Kings? That was certainly kind of an issue with Arthur Kaliev as well. Now, if the Kings acquired him, where would he fit in? Most likely he'd be on the right side on the second line in place of where Trevor Moore is right now. Moore would likely drop down to the third line and Alex Laferriere down to the fourth line. Why is Brock Besser available? Well, he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. And at this point, the Canucks don't seem inclined to offer him a long-term deal, which is what he's looking for at around $8 million per season. Now, with the Canucks out of a playoff spot currently and likely not going to get back into one, they just traded away arguably their best forward in JT Miller. Odds are the Canucks are going to be looking to move Brock Besser for assets for the future. They're not going to let him walk away at the end of the year for nothing. Now, do the Kings have those assets? Well, possibly. They could maybe look to part with an Alex Laferriere, a younger right winger that the Canucks will be looking to replace Brock Besser with. Of course, the Kings always have draft picks that they could use as well. Do the Kings have enough to offer, though, in comparison to other teams? That remains to be seen. And would the Kings want to resign Brock Besser? Would they want to pay him that money, or would they just be looking for a rental for the rest of the season and then see how it goes, give him a tryout, so to speak, and then sign him maybe potentially at the end of the year? But then also, if they do that, they'd be risking him walking for nothing as well. So interesting to see if the Kings would be interested in Brock Besser. When you look at the rumor sites for what those are worth, the Kings really aren't mentioned as teams of interest. You hear teams like the Minnesota Wild, the New Jersey Devils, the Boston Bruins, the Detroit Red Wings as teams that are interested in Brock Besser. Although it would make sense, it seems to be a fit for a need for the LA Kings. So Brock Besser is certainly a name to keep in mind. He's relatively young if they did want to re-sign him, and he could be a guy that would help now and down the road. But he is the type of player the Kings are looking for, but also, as you could tell, could be a fit, could help out their needs. But then again, also, the defense is not really there, and he's a guy that the Kings probably are kind of looking at. But would he be a fit? That's certainly the question that is going to be answered going forward. Could the answer at right wing for the Kings be within the organization? And he is playing in an all-star game tonight. We'll tell you who that is next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there is no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what's happening in the game or on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that is icing on the cake. It is a Super Bowl rematch. Chiefs taking on the Eagles. Kansas City looking for the three-peat. They're listed as a 1.5 favorite, and the over-under is 48.5. Download the Gametime app or head to the FanDuel.com website and get started. Bet just $5, you could win $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, as we all know, the LA Kings are looking for a right-handed shot, a right winger who could possibly help with some scoring and on the power play, and the answer could be within the organization. We've talked about it before, but Samuel Fagemo, right wing, right-hand shot, who can score at least at the AHL level. He's participating in the AHL All-Star Skills Competition tonight and will be participating in the AHL All-Star game coming up on Monday. As for Fagemo, at the midway point of the AHL season or at the All-Star break, he is tied in the league for most goals with 21. The leader's got 25. Those 21 goals obviously lead the Reign. He also has 7 power play goals. That's more than double what his next closest teammate has in Ontario. Also should be pointed out that the former Kings second-round pick is a -8 this year, only has 9 assists on the season, so his all-around game isn't exactly conducive to what maybe the Kings are looking for. But again, for what the Kings lack, goal-scoring help on the power play, a right-handed shot, he certainly fits the bill there. Now, is he going to be given a chance to show what he can do by the Kings at some point this season? It doesn't seem like he's going to get that opportunity, but I would like to see him get his shot. Call him up, give him 6 games to kind of put up or shut up and see if he can help out with the scoring, see if he can help out with the power play, put him on the second line, move Trevor Moore down, put him on the number 1 power play unit. And if he doesn't get it done, then you've got your answer. And if he does get it done, well, maybe you have your answer as well. You give him a more of an extended audition, and maybe you don't have to give up something at the All-Star break. Maybe the answer is right there in Samuel Fagemo. I don't think it is, to be totally honest with you, but why not give it a shot, give it a chance, and see if maybe it is. You don't know unless you try. As for the Ontario Reign, the Kings AHL affiliate, let's give you a Reign report. We haven't done that in a while. The Reign won their final game before the All-Star break. That was Saturday night, 5-4 in a shootout over the Tucson Roadrunners. That's the Utah Hockey Club's AHL affiliate. That was in Arizona. The Reign were able to get a pair of goals from both Jeff Malott and Taylor Ward. For Malott, goals 11 and 12 on the season. For Ward, goals 8 and 9. Malott and Glenn Gaudin also scored in the shootout to get the win. Eric Portillo picks up the victory in net for the Reign. 4 goals allowed on 31 shots. Stopped both shooters he saw in the shootout. On the season, Portillo now has a record of 13-5-2. The goals against average is 2.76. The save percentage is .893. As for the Reign, going into the second half of the season, they have a 26-14-2 record for 54 points. They are tied with Coachella Valley for second place in the Pacific Division, both only trailing the Calgary Wranglers. So there you go. There is your Reign report, keeping track of things going on with the Kings AHL affiliate. And of course, we've got a couple of weeks coming up with this 2-week break for the Four Nations tournament. We'll obviously focus on Adrian Kempe in that event and potentially Drew Doughty if he gets selected, but also have some extra time to do some other things, some special interviews. And we're going to try and see if we can't get an Ontario Reign player to join us and talk about what's going on in Ontario as well. Preferably somebody that you are familiar with. All right, if you guys want to get an email in for this show to contact me about anything, including our Kings fan feedback shows every Friday. The email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com. You're always welcome to post your thoughts as well if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section. We'd love you to stay interact with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. Still working on getting the Facebook page and the TikTok account up and running. Until then, I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you on Monday. And as always, go Kings go.